Oh, now she's going in the shadows again. Is
Yeah,
that
she's
how?
in the shadows. Yeah, it's time. What's up, y'all?
Hello, everybody.
We'll see her, but nobody else will. So that's okay.
Oh, they don't see her either.
They don't need to see her. They can just see us. It's
So
okay.
they think we're making it up when we're talking about her, like during the session.
Probably, she is right there. They
Oh,
don't
wow.
see it.
They don't see her. So they think we're being facetious and dishonest,
Yeah,
talking about her while she can't hear it. We would
yeah, she's
never.
right there.
There's no joy in talking about somebody when they can't hear it.
Right. Because we're not toxic people. We're not gossiping. We say
No,
it
we're
right.
not. That's right. We're not slanderous.
We say it right in front of your face.
That's right. Man,
What's up, y'all?
that thing's getting some traction too, man.
Right.
They like that toxic thing.
Yeah, man. So a whole bunch of toxic stuff going on now, boy. If you go,
Oh,
I know you don't spend much time online, but I'll keep you posted on some of the stuff that's being said and going on, and
about
all the prophets that prophesied Trump winning.
Oh man,
They're saying it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and Kenneth Copeland was at somebody's church laughing about it, and I don't get why why some people put their faith in a political candidate to keep a religion, to keep the faith going, and not Jesus Christ.
My buddy calls it the political evangelical church.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't get it either. Not a word of faith guys are in it. I mean, it really is not about faith.
No, it's about power.
And I've said it 1,000 times. The racial vote is never logical, and it's not spiritual. So.
Yep. And the crazy thing is, I saw a couple black prophets saying the same thing, and
oh yeah, and then they started changing up when it looked like it wasn't going to go its way.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is Jezebel, and I'm just there's a word of prophetic going on right now. Pretty interesting.
Why is she Jezebel? Because she got elected by vice president.
Because she's an Obama surrogate, and she's influencing Biden's Ahab, and she's Jezebel, and she's negatively influencing him.
Let me ask you a question: Who was negatively influenced by president?
That's my thing.
That's what I want to know. Who my president appeared to be negatively influenced? Who was negatively influenced?
Right. But to them, he's being led by the Lord and being led by the Spirit. I'm like, okay,
that's an indictment on God. Some of the things done and said that wouldn't be the Lord.
Absolutely.
I don't care who it is. That wouldn't be the Lord.
Absolutely. I saw one prophet came out and repented and said, he got it wrong, and the rest of them are holding on to the Supreme Court overturning it. And
what's the Supreme Court going to overturn?
They're going to say that there was fraudulent ballots, and that whole thing they're crying about.
It's getting killed. It's getting killed in every court.
Yeah.
There's in one state, if there's 30,000 ballots, it will be impossible to establish a pattern among that many ballots.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but it just, it's, I don't know. It would be better if we would just get ready for the transition.
Yeah.
And, make it as productive as possible, I think.
Yeah. Rather than him telling his people to go to the polls and, don't do the mail-in vote. And Democrats pushing the mail-in vote. Of course, mail-in votes are going to be higher.
Yeah.
It's just logic.
It's a pandemic, but they didn't have respect for the pandemic.
Yeah. So I mean, they're going to fight, and we'll see what happens. But
it's not going to be a fight. They're just going to keep suing, and the judge is going to keep throwing it out because it's almost impossible to have evidence.
Yeah.
The amount of evidence that they would need to, you can't take 5 votes, 10 votes, 100 votes out of 30,000 and say there's fraud. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, especially in only the states that you lost. Like, you're really going to justify that? Like, come on.
That's not good.
It's like saying keep counting in Arizona, but stop counting in Georgia.
Yeah, yes. It's
PA. It's like
so logical. It's foolishness, like Ada says.
Yeah, it is foolish. Hey, y'all. Sorry.
How y'all doing? So this 10 times better thing is heating up.
Yeah. Now you said something about you said this is going to be a doozy today.
Yeah, this one's good, and the daddy talk's going to be explosive too.
Oh no, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah, Daddy Talk's going to be a little touchy.
For sure.
So, today I think we're talking about goal-oriented and stuff like that, and self-governing. And I think it's just, I think if a man is going to be a leader, he cannot be so emotional that he is explosive rather than expressive.
Right.
And sometimes I think there's a deception in that, because when you're angry, it does feel like strength. But anger is actually a destructive emotion.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, and as we've been talking about toxic people, it's almost a crime for a man to lead something and trying to work out his anger and be toxic at the same time, because it deteriorates the organization that he's a part of.
Yep.
You find yourself not. The cultural thing is for men to have expressive power, when the Bible really teaches quiet power.
Yeah.
That's the Jesus model, quiet power.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you think we're losing a grip on being self-governing?
I think our nature, I mean, it's both ways. So our nature, God created us in a way where we need to follow somebody.
Right.
Part that. And then I think for a long time, not even just in general, but human beings in general, we try the path of least resistance. Play the victim.
Yeah.
Which is not self-governance.
Nope.
And then sometimes we take the God's going to do it too far and forget about our part in the equation.
Yeah.
So if I'm not successful, it's because God didn't, and people say this, God didn't open the door yet, but are we doing our part though?
I'm going to say something that I think might be a little controversial, but I think it's true nevertheless. People yearn for purpose and yearn for destiny to be revealed, but I'm not sure that we can be trusted with the responsibility of purpose if we run up against resistance and we quit, or it doesn't work out because of some lack of participation or incorrect participation of ours, and then try to blame it on, it was too cloudy that day, it was too sunny that day, God did it, the devil did it, and never really take responsibility for perhaps hindering the steps that God has ordered for us.
Sure. Well, I've been meaning to ask you this for the past 2 weeks, though.
Okay.
Along this line.
Okay.
Well, first, before I get into that, to kind of go what you said, if Adam and Eve were sinless,
right,
and they fell, that shows the depth of humanity's struggle with self-governance.
Okay.
They had no sin and couldn't govern themselves properly.
Okay.
We got sin and struggled to govern ourselves properly too.
Yeah.
The other part was, because we talked about this last week and a little bit on Wednesday or the discussion, I can't remember, which is, to me, you don't have to be saved to be successful in life.
No.
And I think as Christians, we forget that the hard work part, along with God, helps out.
Right. Well, because it's a partnership.
Yes. Because you don't have to be saved to have money. You don't have to be saved to have a great business.
I think the Adam and Eve model shows us an additional perspective. And the perspective is the availability of temptation. And I believe that's what appeals to our human nature. The availability of sin, the proximity of sin, in which we are given the task of operating liberty or captivity. And Adam and Eve were really functioning in liberty, true liberty.
Mm.
The snake was in the garden, the tree was there, and they were functioning perfectly in liberty
Mm-hmm.
until they succumb to the temptation that's always available where liberty is being exercised.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we find ourselves, the devil always appeals to our doubts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that since we're talking about men have to become reflective and not just instinctive. Because if we go by our natural instincts, I think we'll be tempted by the temptation that's presented to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. I think when I learned and it really clicked how much I can't trust myself,
Absolutely.
and I need guidance,
Absolutely.
it changed my whole entire life.
Yeah.
I make too many decisions on my own passions and my own instincts, as you say. I just
if you can get to the point, Pastor Nick, where we can admit where our weaknesses are, we can say it's not an indictment for me to admit that I'm a moody person.
Mm-hmm.
It is an indictment if I don't control it.
Yes. Yes.
And controlling them doesn't mean I don't have the moodiness.
Mm.
Controlling them means people are not affected by them.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. And being real about you. I'm moody, so I get it. Not being able to, not knowing when I can't trust my feelings. I think in the past 2 years, I've learned immensely when I shouldn't be making decisions on my own.
Yeah.
Because my emotions are not right at that time. So I'll seek counsel, or I'll just wait until the feelings kind of subside so I can make a clear decision.
Yeah.
Outside of how I feel at the moment.
I remember I got a revelation in a clothing store one time. And the guy was showing me some perfectly nice stuff. He knew my likes and my dislikes, and it was my friend Mark. And Mark was showing me stuff, and I didn't like anything. And I got in my car and I said, Lord, what's up? Because I knew a lesson was being learned just in that simple setting.
Okay.
And I realized I can't make preference decisions when I'm tired.
Yeah.
So I've learned that if I'm going to make a decision, I have to have a reasonably clear mind. I can't be overwhelmed with fatigue.
Yeah.
Because I won't make a decision. I won't like anything.
Yep. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it totally.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning, I'm not the most alert.
Okay.
I try to get a lot done in the morning, but I don't try to get a lot of heavy stuff done in the morning.
Okay.
Because I know my brain is more alert the more the day goes on.
Yeah, mine's crystal clear very early.
Yeah.
It starts to slow down on me around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then it bounces back around 5 or 6.
Yeah, it starts clicking, but that's a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah. Keisha Bryan is asking, what's the topic tonight? Keisha, I believe we're talking about, and maybe Maya can remember, I think we're talking about integrity, self-governing, focused, and purpose and goal-oriented, I believe. I think that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
But self-governing is key for a man. Some of us can't stand the liberty of being liberated.
Yeah.
I think of Saul and how, he was anointed and God had made him promises, and he got drunk on victory.
Yeah.
And once he tasted victory, he started making exceptions or deciding what he was going to obey and what he wasn't going to obey.
Yep. And then him not taking responsibility.
Absolutely.
When the time came.
I think that's one of the most offensive things to God.
Yeah.
Blame something on the devil when all the devil did was observe the transaction.
Yep. And you're right, because once Yeah, because when David got called out by Nathan, his first thing was to repent, make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of self-governance is learning how to own your own failures, your own
Yeah,
mistakes,
yeah.
repent, and make that change.
But I think a lot of us would rather. It's easier to blame someone else.
Yeah,
You know, if my mother had done this, or my father had done that, um, and that should be added. Your interpretation of what they did or what they said.
sure.
Uh, you know, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. Now, it's amazing how we say that when we're trying to escape responsibility,
Hmm.
you know, and we blame someone that if they're not around or deceased, they can't defend what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
right. Literally.
there's a little method. There's a little method in that madness.
Yeah, and like at a certain age, like we said before, certain excuses kind of go out the window. You can't be 55, 45. I got commitment issues because my dad wasn't around. It's like at a certain age, some things should be changed. We got to take responsibility sometime. You see, what's this?
Yeah. What's Jeremy saying?
That's a long. I'm trying to read. It's a
Yeah.
long question. I'll just put it out there.
Yeah.
Since COVID timeout, I've asked God to help me hear from Him so that I can be careful and to obey Him. I don't consider myself to have arrived to where I would say I can prophesy. But what do you say concerning our brothers and sisters who have prophesied that Trump will win and will still say he will win? Why don't we all hear the same word from God?
Because unfortunately, Jeremy, glad to see you tonight too. Unfortunately, and rather to our shame, the modern church often mimics the Corinthian church described in the Bible. Everybody's got a prophecy, everybody's got a tongue, everyone, and it's really a picture of confusion in the house of God based upon people who desire to be seen or heard, or have chosen a gift that they want to express, whether correctly or incorrectly, for recognition. That's what I get out of that. Everybody has a psalm, everybody, because if God is not the author of confusion, then obviously God would not give 12 different words to 12 different people on the same thing. So what we're seeing is a little more human involved than the spirit involved.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is coming from a preference for recognition. Some of that is coming from speaking from a political point of view rather than being led by God.
Yeah. Yep. And I swear people don't. We all bring a bias to stuff,
Absolutely.
and when we learn not to remove that bias from when we read the Bible, hear from God, it makes it a lot clearer. And I'd much rather somebody say, this was my choice. I'd rather this person be in office rather than just throwing it all on God.
Well, we like to spiritualize everything.
Yeah.
I remember when I did that BS series.
Yes.
Yeah, that BS. And for those of you that never heard that, it was called belief systems,
yeah, clarify it.
not the BS that we say in the street, but belief systems. And everybody comes to God with a belief system firmly entrenched.
Yep.
And that belief system has been created by our experiences.
Absolutely.
And that belief system is in the fiber of who we are and has helped shape our identity before we come to Christ. And that's part of what the Holy Ghost has to transform. Paul says that thing, his flesh is not something he has. Paul said that's who he is.
Yeah.
So we come with a belief system who has created our mindset, our opinion of ourselves, our perspective on the world. And then Jesus comes along and says, I'm going to transform you by the renewing of your mind. Of course, that word renewing in the Greek has to do with renovation.
Yeah. So Keisha Bryant has the question. Another question. I never knew my dad as when I was growing up. My mom knew, but she never explained that to me. Can you help me with this question? That's a frequent question about children whose mother won't tell them who their father is.
Okay.
And they just kind of have no clue. The family's not saying anything. I've had a couple people talk to me about that. How do you?
Well, normally, first off, the first hurdle is overcoming as an adult the childlike expectation of a parent who chose not to be present. So the first hurdle is understanding that every parent is not a parent first. They're human beings first. They're men or women first, and they have the same weaknesses and the same strength, possible weaknesses and strength that other human beings have. The disadvantage is when we have a parent who is not equipped for the assignment of parenting, but only equipped for the assignment of conceiving. So we deal with trying to find answers, Keisha. And here's the truth on it. Once we realize that that individual was a human being first, we suddenly can recognize and many times accept their frailties or their faults. It's amazing to me that in that process, you will find yourself not yearning from an adult heart, but yearning from your child heart for someone to become something that they've never given us the intention that they, in our first eyes, want to be, but oftentimes can't be. You know, for instance, my dad was not equipped to parent. He got us here, he fed us, but he couldn't parent. He couldn't father us. And it took me, I think I was in my 20s when I had the revelation that he was a man first. And I was able to accept the fact that long before he came to parent, he was a man. So therefore, I was expecting him to have all the equipment that the title suggests. We expect people that are called fathers to actually be able to father you, mothers to be able to mother you, and that's not always the case. So how you deal with this is accept the fact that back in the day, some parents did not reveal, especially ladies, didn't reveal who the father was based on whether the relationship was either colorful or something was spiritually wrong or something was ethically wrong with the relationship. So oftentimes we find ourselves trying to manage the mistakes of our mothers and fathers. Not that we're mistakes, but because there are no accidental children, there are only accidental parents. So we find ourselves in this dilemma where we're still expecting a parent to show up, B, the parent to be a parent when they have absolutely exhibited, like my dad did, that he was not equipped, nor did he have the desire to be. But my mom filled that space with my granddad and my uncles, and then when I got saved, my pastor. But what cured me of this deficiency was early on in the ministry, 30 years ago, I began to father other men. And amazingly, doing what I lacked healed me of what I missed. I hope that wasn't too long of an explanation.
No, you good. So some people, I think she said she doesn't know him or never met him. Some people ask the question, should I go on a search for my father? Should I, to find out who he is? Do you recommend opening that door to people?
I think it depends on this one thing, I think, maybe two. I cannot go on the search expecting to hear what I want to hear. That's the first thing. The second thing is this: closure is overrated, because you may get an intellectual understanding of why, but the emotional understanding will only last for a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll understand it while I'm having a conversation with the person. I'll have a complete understanding as to the reasons. It'll make sense psychologically, but it will never make sense emotionally.
Yeah.
So I learned early on things that will not make sense emotionally, I don't seek closure in.
Yeah.
Because the things that don't make sense emotionally are things that should have never happened.
Yep. Yep. Okay. I answered them the right way. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of people, they want to know. You're right. You may open the door to something and you may not like the answer to that
Yeah.
you get.
Yeah.
You gotta be ready for anything.
Got to be ready for both answers.
Yep. So we gotta get out of here. I'm sorry.
We got to get out.
That clock is wrong in there. We got I think it's AV Moore. Can you ask your question when we come back after?
Yeah, I got 5:56.
Yeah, because we'll be back at 6:20, y'all. So Avi Moore, can you please come back at 6:20 and ask the question and Bishop will answer, okay? All right, see y'all later.